Recorded live.
Welcome to the Duquesne University Small Business Development Center Bizcast, sponsored by Microsoft. Today I'd like to welcome our guest, Suzanne Kaplan, author of Start Your Own Business and Hire Yourself. Hello, Suzanne.
Good afternoon, Christine.
One of the things, Suzanne, I know I took a look at your book, and I was looking at the first chapter, and your book provides insider tips for successful self-employment in any economy. And the first chapter is There's No Time Like the Present to Start Your Own Business. Tell me a little bit about this. Why is now, with today's economy and all the things that we're hearing that are going wrong, why is now a good time to start a business?
Well, I think there are three main reasons that now is a good time to do it. One is that really there are a lot of people out here who need work. And it may be that you can't find a full-time job doing the work that you do, but you could find a lot of jobs, different jobs doing it. So that's when you become self-employed and you kind of hire yourself out in pieces. And, the benefit of that is it's usually at a higher hourly rate than you were being paid by your former employer. So that's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to have control of your own future, and you probably will not fire yourself. So that's one reason. The second reason is that we're in an economy and an environment where assets are very cheap. Buying equipment, leasing equipment, it's hard to get leases, but getting equipment, the cost of it, there's a lot of used equipment out, there's a lot of used trucks if that's what you need. There's just a lot of things out there that your entry costs are a lot less than they were 5 years ago when everything was very hot. And commercial property is very available, and landlords are really looking to make a deal. Having any tenant in is better than having no income at all. So you can find a landlord that may give you a couple months free rent, that may give you a lease that's back-ended, meaning that you're paying the bulk of the monthly fees at a higher rate, after a couple of years and you had a chance to establish yourself. And finally, the third reason is that companies have abandoned some smaller niche markets and some businesses that they don't do anymore, and you might be able to find, a company doing that.
Wonderful. So now you yourself have been involved in several business ventures over the years. How did you know that they were the right business for you? What kind of research did you do?
The research that you do, and I know that this is something that usually really gets to new entrepreneurs, but you really do have to write a business plan, and I'm sorry to be the one to be the bearer of those news. But as you think it through in a business plan and you look at all of the elements of what it's going to cost and what are going to be your sources of revenue, and you ask questions of other people, you will find that you will be getting advice from people. Oh, that's a great idea. Oh, nobody's doing that. You know what company you might do that for? And so you really want to test out your idea in the elements of a business plan. And I really think, what's called that SWOT analysis in marketing, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, is something that is really the key research that you want to do. What are your strengths to do it? What opportunities do you have to do it? What are your weaknesses in doing it, and what are the threats that may not allow you to create a business in the direction you think you're going to do it?
And then do you believe that someone, other than talking to customers, potential customers, and vendors, should a small business owner go out and find a mentor?
Everyone can use a mentor, coach, consultant, attorney, accountant, someone that they trust to bounce ideas off of when you're working inside of a company or you're working for your own company. Entrepreneurs get very isolated. They really do have, spend most of their time with their employees or their creditors or people that they really can't talk honestly to and don't want to. So they really do need to have somebody to bounce off ideas with. And so either a group of people or a single mentor that you can get advice from is a great idea.
Good. Now, you've started, as I've mentioned before, you've been involved in lots of different business ventures, and you've also consulted with a lot of small business owners. What do you find to be the biggest hurdle in starting a business, and how did you overcome it?
The biggest hurdle in starting a business is the learning curve and understanding that there is one. You think you know exactly what's going to happen, and I can almost guarantee that isn't what's going to happen. Whenever you see a business plan and you see the original pro forma that a new entrepreneur has devised, you always say to them, cut it in half. Your revenue will probably be half of what you expect. And on the expense side, you're going to have expenses that you don't know, so that you have to be a lifelong learner. I've been at this for over 30 years. I still read books about entrepreneur. I still attend seminars about some of the things that I've been doing. Even though I teach some, I also attend some, because there is always, I'm involved in a social network now, which we have as a business. And a year ago, I went to an all-day seminar on the economics of social media. So there's always a learning curve, and you always need to look at where you can get a higher level of education about what you're doing.
And one of the things that you mentioned is being sort of that risk taker. Can you talk a little bit more about that? If you want to be an entrepreneur, do you have to be a risk taker?
Well, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I said, business owners are not necessarily risk takers. Entrepreneurs are risk takers. Business owners are often people who buy into established businesses or franchise or start traditional businesses. Entrepreneurs are really the new idea people, and they are somewhat risk takers. But what you learn after some years of being an entrepreneur is how to take a calculated risk, how not to put the farm at risk on every decision and every move, but to put a limited amount of your resources in play so that if you have to change, you still have some left, to retool your shop. So that's a critical element.
Now, you mentioned another thing, that entrepreneurs are idea generators. How do you come about, or how do you suggest someone who wants to open up a business, where can they find ideas if they don't have one themselves?
Well, Inc. magazine and Entrepreneur magazine, and you can read about what other people are doing. You can talk to business owners and get ideas. You can take a start your own business class and get ideas. And if you really want to do something like buy a franchise, you can go to franchise shows and see what other people are selling off as concepts and ideas. I know a couple of years ago, the idea of fruit centerpieces, I thought was, you can't make a franchise out of that. Well, the local edible arrangements near me now runs 3 trucks. And they do a very good job, because that's an idea that, unless you had seen it, I never would have thought of it. So those people are out there selling their concept and their ideas to other people. So you've got to get out there and do some research. Starting a business should not be something you plan to do in a week. It should be something you plan to do within a year.
Okay, so you're saying give yourself at least a year to put everything together, to put together a business plan, to look for the financing, find the brick and mortar if that's what you're looking to do.
Yeah, a year from the time you wake up in the middle of the night and write it down on a piece of paper until you open the doors, I would think is about average. I said to you, it's you have to have the passion for it, because it's like giving birth to a child. Once it's there, it's yours and you own it. So giving birth to a child takes 9 months. So I would think giving birth to a business should be somewhat in that range.
And I agree. I mean, from working with people here at the Small Business Development Center, passion is really what you need to have, because you do have to eat, breathe, sleep your business, especially those first few years when you're in business.
It's your responsibility, and you are going to be the salesperson to the employees, to the vendors, to the customers. You're going to have to make the concept fly. So if you don't feel, impassioned about how right it is, other people will not get on the boat with you. So, you've got to be the one to lead the charge.
Right. Well, I'd like to thank you for taking the time today to talk with us about your experiences that you've had over the 30 years that you've been in business. I think it's very relevant to someone who is looking to start a business, to hear from someone who's been there and done that. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye.